The soliloquy! The raven at the door, flaming pits, the moving walls, no equilibrium, no ballast, no bombast, the unvarnished truth we've got. Mind swoons guiltily, cooking ravings in a pot. These are the stories of Edgar Allan Poe. Or so says Lou Reed. But nothing is that simple. From childhood's hour, he has not been as other were, has not seen as others saw. His talk has been serious and sober, but his thoughts, they were palsied and sear. What tale of terror now turbulence he tells? I must scream or die. Tear up the plank. Here, it is the beating of his hideous heart. Sorry, spoilers, I got excited. And if you didn't know all of those, then you don't know Edgar Allan Poe, and I ask you, how could you not know Poe? Can't say, let me hip you too, because, how have you not been hipped yet? You can't say, have you heard Poe, because everyone knows. Can't even say, if you know, because everyone knows the Poes. I have more, but I'm getting dizzy, so I'm going to stop rhyming, but you get it. Born January 19th, 1809 in Boston, so long ago that the U.S. was only 33 years old, single, figuring its shit out, live, laugh, loving its way through a Michaels, looking for new decorative inspirational wall art to declare that it's ready to find itself and it loves cats. And now, here in the future, that house and home of Poe is gone because you humans love Starbucks. Instead, across the street behind a cigar shop, a security company, and a convenience store, and yes, a Starbucks, you'll find an aggressive statue of a man walking like he just electrocuted himself on his way to work and is trying to watch it off, while a giant-ass dinosaur bird is blasting out of his suitcase like it's taking advantage of this guy's post-electrocuted state to escape. That moment is forever sitting, still is sitting, still is sitting, in an Edgar Allan Poe square on the corner of Boylston and Charles Street. And unlike Lou Reed's lyrics, I think that statue about sums it all up. Edgar Allan Poe is a moment that can only be correctly memorialized with something so weird it takes a few minutes to understand and a while to explain. But why? Is it because it's the Halloween season and it's upon us? The autumn air is finally killing the shit that's making you sneeze for a few blessed moments to reflect? Is it because it's Yom Kippur? Gemar Chativa Tova, by the way. What are you doing out? You know, that's true, it was yesterday, but it's also anyway. No! That breezy feeling on the wind inspiring us to pause for Poe is because 175 years ago, October 7th, 1849, Edgar Allan Poe died in Baltimore. But do you really know Poe? Gather round the candle for the most wild yet most homely narrative which I'm about to pen. I neither expect nor solicit belief, because facts do not require your belief. They just are, and I am not mad, and surely I do not dream, you dig? Poe's mom was an actress. She died of tuberculosis. Who didn't? Leaving Edgar to the Allans, the foster family who gave him the name Edgar Allan, baptized him, and all of this before Poe was 5. Lost his parents. Foster family's kind of mean, kind of derpy. Poe is basically a Victorian Harry Potter without the whimsy. Family moves to London, comes back to Virginia in the U.S., which was only 46 years old at the time, before Ubers and pre-checks, so things took a bit. Poe goes to the University of Virginia, which had a revolutionary system developed by Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, that Thomas Jefferson, in that the students were supposed to govern themselves and report all shenanigans to the faculty themselves, which, I don't know if you've been to college, but that's like letting the schnauzers run the vet. But Edgar Allan Poe is a handsome and athletic guy with a great voice because his mom was an actor, remember? Poe drops out because he had a little gambling issue. Who didn't? And he moves to Boston, where he starts working at a newspaper. And I don't know if you ever worked at a newspaper, but that doesn't really pay off the gambling. So he goes to the army and he kills it. He would have been a career soldier if it wasn't for the fact that he was just into writing poems. His first book, Timberlane and Other Poems, was published in 1827, but he attributed it only to a Bostonian because he came from poor and didn't want anyone to know that he was poor. But calling himself a Bostonian was a little weird. Sorry, fucking wicked odd guy, because the poems were inspired by a British poet, Lord Byron. And the U.S., particularly in Boston, fought a pretty big war and signed a pretty lengthy contract that they were not about that tea life only 50 years ago. And now it's still a little fresh. 1829, Poe moves to Baltimore to move in with his aunt, his brother, his grandmother, and his cousin, Virginia. Yes, that cousin. Yeah, it's a little weird. Yes, it was kind of de rigueur to marry a 13-year-old. Yeah, that's still fucking weird. Yeah, it was probably a marriage of convenience, and yeah, that's still fucking weird. Think about your cousin. That's one of the least interesting things about Edgar Allan Poe. They all live together like the beginning of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but with way more tuberculosis. Poe gets intentionally court-martialed so he can get into writing, and then his brother dies from tuberculosis. Who didn't? Poe is kind of sort of making a living by writing, which is unheard of at the time, becoming the first American to do so. That is how good he was. He gets drunk a lot. Who doesn't? Have you met people? He writes a bunch. He moves to Philadelphia, becomes a co-editor at Graham's Magazine, which came around because Burton's Gentleman's Magazine merged with Atkinson's Casket. That's like the New Yorker merged with Cosmo and Playboy, but just for the articles. And then they were the go-to for news, reviews, music, fashion, and this new craze, hitting the streets and scaring the parents, short stories. This is where he meets his rival, the appropriately named Rufus Wilmot Griswold. And they get into it after Rufus beats Edgar out for promotion, and they never reconciled. Write that down. It's going to be important later. Graham's Magazine hired Edgar Allan Poe as an editor because, quote, Mr. Poe is too well known in the literary world to require a word of commendation, meaning he's too good to say he's good. That's how good he is, because this guy got it. Anyway, whilst there, Edgar Allan Poe writes a tale of something called ratiocination, which means, quote, the process of exact thinking applied to something that was on everyone's mind because the cities were expanding, crime. At the time, remember, we're way back, America was investing in science to solve crimes and reporting on it, but the word detective was brand new, and they hadn't worked the bugs out yet. He creates the character C. August Dupin to apply some creative thinking into getting into the mind of the criminal. And yeah, that's kind of cheating. You can't win an argument if you're just arguing with yourself, Aaron Sorkin, but it's fun to read. As he attempts to solve a murder, the short story, ooh, how chic, is called Murders in the Rue Trianon. Rue meaning road, and Trianon is the fancy villa. But Poe went harder, wanting you, the reader, to think more about murder. So he changed the name to Murders in the Rue Morgue. And then he introduced someone to solve the crime with clever insight and method. And bam! Did you feel that? Edgar Allan Poe just created the detective novel, inspiring every detective novel you know of, because it was the first time you'd ever done that. So just know, without Edgar Allan Poe, whom you should all know, you would not have Poirot, Miss Marple, Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, Sam Spade, Basil at Baker Street, Alex Cross, Benoit Blanc, Gil Grissom, Olivia Benson, Temperance Brennan, Sean Spencer, Veronica Mars, Jessica Jones, Batman, Clouseau, Columbo, Monkhouse, and fucking Wishbone. The greatest of them all, because he can smell crime. And then, January 29th, 1845, Once Upon a Midnight Dreary, Poe ponders weak and weary. J.K., The Raven hits the evening mirror and goes viral, which is a little dark considering what's coming. But for now, Eddie's a fucking rock star. But it was published under the name Quarles. Why? I don't know. Poe was fucking weird like that. 1846. He moves to the Bronx, 1847. His cousin wife, Virginia, dies of what? Tuberculosis, and you wonder why he drinks. Poe heads to Richmond. He's not doing great. Who would be? And in 1849, he disappears. He's found October 3rd, semi-conscious in Baltimore, which is my favorite Lou Reed album. Quote, in great distress and in need of immediate assistance. Who isn't? According to Joseph W. Walker, he'd know. He's the guy that found him. Poe gets taken to Washington Medical College, incoherent, yelling the name Reynolds. And at 5 a.m. on October 7th, his last words were, Lord, help my poor soul. At least that's according to the attending physician. But all records of Poe's death were lost, including his death certificate. So no one knows why, how, what, and about how Poe died. Which means Edgar Allan Poe, the guy who wrote about madness, murder, death, and mysteries, died screaming mad and mysteriously. And some people just look like their pets. But why? When asked if you know Poe, do you think of a weird kid that looks like he smells like cat piss, who knows that he's gonna write a song about you and it's not gonna be comfortable? Because after Poe's death, his one mistake in the history of his life, fighting poverty, alcoholism, lead, whatever, it's the 1800s, you're lucky if you didn't drop dead from a paper cut, madness, he did not outlive his rival. Rufus Wilmot Griswold immediately wrote, quote, a slanted, high-profile obituary under the name Ludwig. What the fuck is up with you guys changing names back then? Your own names were fucking awesome enough. Why make it harder? And he called Poe a creep who, quote, walked the streets in madness or melancholy, with lips moving in indistinct curses, with eyes upturned in passionate prayers, never for himself, for he felt or professed to feel that he was already damned, who, quote, died in Baltimore the day before yesterday. This announcement will startle many, but few will be grieved by it. And then, just to punt Edgar Allan Poe's ghost in the dick, he writes a full-on biography about Poe called Memoir of the Author that describes Poe as a frail, drug-addicted, drunk, creepy, psycho, weirdo jerk, and that is why most humans think of Poe as a frail, drunk, drug-addicted weirdo that wrote creepy stories, and not the handsome, fit, street-fighting rock star poet who invented the detective novel, who was basically Mr. Darcy but with an edge. And that is why you let your critics die before you do. Fuck you, Lou Reed. Poe was the boy next door. Maybe it's just the vibe. Maybe it's the crunchy breeze. Maybe I'm biased because Poe has always been a safe space for talking birds. But on the anniversary of his death in Baltimore, I figure it's only fair we drink to the real Poe, whom you now know, and may we never forget it, nevermore.
Nailed it.